Hello, welcome. Um, we're going to try a little experiment today, do a little virtual Kirtan. We'll see how it goes. As usual, I'm going to invite a few folks. Welcome, Sammy. So give us a few minutes to invite people and let people sign in that want to join us for this. In the meantime, you can warm up your voice if you're going to be singing along with me. Not required. I won't hear you either way. But maybe I can feel you in spirit regardless. So I would love for you to join me if you are so inclined. And again, I'm just going to invite some people. And then we'll get started in just a little bit. Alright, so welcome Sammy, Malika, Dad, August, hey. Danielle, Josh, welcome. And Deborah, Amy, good to see you all. So today we're trying a little experiment. I have no idea how it will go. But chanting has become a big part of my teaching. And so it's something that at least some of you have gotten used to doing with me on a somewhat regular basis. We do it at the beginning and end of every class in person, but that's been a little difficult to do online. I do it with some of the classes, but not all of them. And when this first started, some people were wondering about like chanting on Zoom. Can we chant on Zoom? No, we can't. It's not. I know it seems like you can have a conversation and go back and forth on Zoom, but it doesn't really work that. You can't have multiple people chanting together. There's actually a delay when you're using something like Zoom or Skype or any of those services. So even though it seems like you're hearing me right away, you're actually hearing me at least a few seconds later. With conversation, it's not a big deal, but with music, where timing is really important, it makes a huge difference. In fact, as I'm singing today, if the bandwidth slows down, you may actually hear some little interruptions in the singing. And that won't be from me slowing down or stopping. It'll just be because of the limitations of the technology. So I thought it best that we just start simple and small. So if this goes really well, let me know. If you guys get a lot from it, you want me to keep doing it, you want me to do longer, then we can look at that in the future. Maybe we'll try that. But I thought just one song, let's just keep it simple, do a little chanting for a few minutes. So we're not going to do a marathon session here. I live in an apartment, got neighbors downstairs. They can definitely hear me when I'm singing and playing and chanting, so I don't want to drive them crazy. So the words are there. I hope you can see them. Radhe Govinda Radhe Radhe Shyam is the first line, and then I've written out all the other lines there that you'll need to do this chant with me. So if that's hard for you to read, you might jot them down. And basically this is a mantra or chant to the young Krishna. So Krishna, when he was young, he was what's called a cowherd, basically like a cowboy. He herded cows. That was kind of his job. And he was a mischievous youth. And he's a fascinating character, I think, because he is supposedly an incarnation of the divine. In fact, many people in India worship him as the ultimate symbol of the divine, much in the way that Christians might view God, right? The big G God. And of course, there's the idea that Jesus is both divine and human at the same time. Well, it's kind of the same idea with Krishna, but Krishna's story, he's an interesting person. He's appears very human at various points in the stories about his life. He did things like would spy on naked girls down when they were bathing in the river, and he'd hide their clothes so they'd have to come out of the river naked so he could see them. For many of us, these kinds of ideas, it sounds like that's not something the divine would do. But I think it's fascinating. I think it's really, really interesting, his story, and that, in that tradition, the Vedic or Brahmanic culture, you have all these different manifestations of the divine. And ultimately, we are to learn that everything is ultimately a manifestation of the divine. So I like that idea because it gets us one step closer to that experience that we call enlightenment, where we are not just believing that everything is divine, we're actually experiencing it in real time. We are experiencing that everything, including our own self, our own being, is an expression of the divine. And so when we really experience that, that's called absolute non-dualism. We realize that actually there's nothing but the divine. The divine is everything that there is. So in Zen, this is sometimes said as there's no difference between the sacred and the profane. A piece of trash on the road is also an expression of the divine. So this is something that we can only really understand when we're ready for it. But all these different incarnations of the divine, again, I like that, because then we begin to see, the divine doesn't have just one face. The divine doesn't come just as one package. It can express in many different ways. Okay? So, the words are there for you. Again, Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Shyam is the first line there. And Radhe is, Govinda is a name for the young Krishna, the boy Krishna. Govinda, Gopala, these are names to describe the young Krishna. And Radhe is his main squeeze. He had a lot of girlfriends growing up at the same time. Again, this is something we might not think of, oh, the divine wouldn't do that, Well, this is an interesting story of the divine doing just that. So he had a lot of girlfriends, and he was a player, I guess you might say, but he had one sort of main squeeze. He had a favorite, and that is Radhe, and she's actually a little older than him. So this is a mantra that draws that forth, and there's something very beautiful about the young Krishna and the stories about him. For me, anyway, I just imagine him growing up in Vrindavan, and just how beautiful that probably was, how idyllic it probably was, herding the cows, all these beautiful girls around. He's playing and running around. Later in his life, he had a fight in a war, so it wasn't all beautiful, but something about these mantras from his youth to me just really evoke something very beautiful in my heart, and this is what mantra is really supposed to do. So hopefully this captures that. This is a melody and a tune I wrote to this mantra, Radhe Govinda. Hope you enjoy it. Radhe Radhe Shyam, Radhe Govinda Shyam, Radhe Radhe Shyam, Radhe Radhe Shyam, Radhe Radhe Shyam, Radhe Radhe Shyam. Radhe Govinda Radhe Radhe Shyam. Radhe Radhe Gopala Radhe Radhe Shyam. Radhe Radhe Govinda Radhe Radhe Shyam. Radhe Radhe Gopala Radhe Radhe Shyam. Radhe Govinda 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 Radhe Radhe Shyam. Radhe Radhe Shyam. Radhe Radhe Shyam. Radhe Radhe Shyam. Radhe Radhe All right, everyone. So thank you for singing with me. I hope you were singing. If not, that's okay. I can't do it wrong. So again, let me know how you enjoyed this. If you want to do this again next Tuesday. Up to now, I've been teaching some breathing techniques on Tuesday evenings, but there's lots of ways we can divide up the week. So I want to help support you at home in your practice, and chanting is a very important yoga practice. So let me know if this was helpful or not. Again, thank you for sharing your time with me, and let's do this again soon. If you want more mantras, more chants, more videos, check out the Patreon page. The link is there in the description that I posted underneath the words. So all of that stuff is free. I'm available to you as a teacher if you want or need one to support you in this time. So namaste, everyone. Thanks again, and I'll see you soon, hopefully. Bye.